This backlash didn't come out of nowhere. It's been brewing quietly for years, simmering under the surface, and now it has finally exploded. Meghan Markle is being dragged in a way we haven't seen before. Not just by critics, not just by commentators, by people who once defended her with their whole chest. People who used to excuse everything are now stepping back and asking a very uncomfortable question: how did we not see this sooner? Because when you really look at it, when you stop getting distracted by the glossy interviews and the carefully worded statements, a very clear pattern jumps out. This is a woman who was given everything over and over again by people who genuinely tried to help her. And every single time, those people ended up burned, discarded, or publicly humiliated. She didn't just bite the hand that fed her once, she kept doing it relentlessly until there were no hands left. People are now laying out the receipts, they're connecting the dots, they're lining up the relationships one by one, and noticing how each of them ended the same way: estrangement, fallout, blame pushed outward. And at the center of all of it, every single time, is Meghan Markle. Someone summed it up perfectly online when they said, "Imagine being so ungrateful that you complain after being welcomed into the wealthiest and most respected family in history." That sentence alone hits like a slap because it forces you to really sit with what happened. This wasn't a woman clawing her way up from nothing with no support. This was someone who hit the relationship lottery and then set the ticket on fire. The royal family didn't shut her out, they didn't freeze her out, they welcomed her with open arms and rolled out a level of privilege most people can't even comprehend. Overnight, she went from being a mid-level cable actress to one of the most famous women on the planet. Instant global recognition. A fairy tale wedding that cost tens of millions. A tiara from the Queen's own collection. Palaces, protection, staff, prestige, and a platform that most activists and celebrities spend lifetimes trying to build. And it wasn't just the material side of it. They gave her credibility. They gave her legitimacy. They gave her access to rooms most people will never even see from the outside. She was handed the ability to champion causes on a global stage, with the full weight of centuries of monarchy behind her. One day she was Meghan from Suits, and the next day she was Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. They even went out of their way to support her personally. She was offered guidance, training, help navigating traditions that had existed for generations. Teams were assigned to make her transition smoother. The engagement moved fast, the welcome was warm. When her own father couldn't attend the wedding, Prince Charles stepped in and walked her down the aisle himself. The Queen reportedly made personal efforts to make her feel included, even inviting her to engagements before the wedding had taken place. This wasn't rejection. This was overcompensation. This was a family bending over backwards to make sure she succeeded. And yet, less than 2 years later, she was publicly declaring she was miserable. Suddenly, everything was wrong. The traditions were unbearable. The protocols were oppressive. The staff were difficult. The family was unsupportive. And instead of quietly stepping back, instead of walking away with grace, she turned around and attacked the very institution that had elevated her to global fame. Then came the moment that changed everything. The moment that crystallized her willingness to destroy anyone who ever helped her. That Oprah interview. It's almost too gentle to even call it an interview. It was a demolition. Barely a year after leaving royal duties, while the Queen was in her 90s and Prince Philip was in hospital, Meghan sat down in designer clothing, positioned herself as the ultimate victim, and unleashed accusations that would ricochet around the world. She dropped the racism claims without naming names, leaving the entire family under a cloud of suspicion. But she spoke about mental health struggles and alleged she was denied help. She complained about security, about control, about losing her passport and her keys, about feeling trapped. Every grievance was aired publicly, and every single one pointed the finger directly at the people who had given her everything. The damage was immediate. An institution that had survived wars, abdications, and scandals was suddenly being branded racist released on the global stage. And what made it even more explosive was the timing, the vulnerability of the people being accused, and the fact that this wasn't done privately. It was broadcast to millions. And yes, she got paid for it. Millions of dollars, reportedly, for telling a story that shattered her husband's relationship with his family. She monetized their pain. She turned private family fractures into global entertainment. William was said to be furious. The Queen deeply hurt. The carefully maintained image of unity collapsed in real time, and the ripple effects are still there. Harry's relationship with his brother appears beyond repair. His bond with his father remains strained even as illness looms. Family gatherings are now choreographed to keep distance, to avoid conflict, to prevent another public spectacle. But here's the thing people are finally realizing: this wasn't the first time Meghan did this. Not even close. Long before the palace, long before the titles, there was her father, Thomas Markle, the man who worked brutal hours to give her opportunities, the man who paid for expensive private schooling, the man who supported her acting dreams, funded her early struggles, showed up for her plays, her auditions, her ambitions. By all credible accounts, he was a devoted father. Not perfect, but present. And when he made a mistake before the wedding, staging paparazzi photos out of insecurity and embarrassment, the punishment wasn't distance. It was erasure. She cut him off completely. No reconciliation. No private conversation. Years passed. He never met his grandchildren. He learned about her life the same way strangers did, through headlines. Now he's elderly, sick, disabled, publicly begging for a conversation before it's too late. And according to insiders, the conditions she's allegedly placed on any reunion are so unrealistic they feel designed to fail. Travel demands he physically can't meet. Legal silences that protect her image, not the relationship. This is her own father, and the pattern is impossible to ignore. Inside the palace, staff learned this lesson too. A revolving door of aides, assistants, and professionals who tried to help her succeed and walked away shaken. Reports of tears, of intimidation, of fear, of formal bullying complaint. An internal investigation that spoke volumes even without public results. And when she left the UK, it didn't stop. Staff continued to leave in California. Communications teams, foundation employees, chief after chief. The same story repeated again and again. People arrive eager to help, the demands escalate, the goalposts move, nothing is ever enough. Eventually, they break. This is what biting the hand that feeds you looks like. And this is where the story turns even darker. Because the people Meghan burned weren't just family and staff. The media that she now treats like a sworn enemy, they were once her biggest cheerleaders. People love to forget that part, but the receipts are still there. In the beginning, the press absolutely adored her. She was framed as the modern savior of the monarchy, the glamorous American who would drag an ancient institution into the future. Headlines were glowing, profiles were flattering, magazine covers multiplied overnight. Her fashion choices were praised, her background was celebrated, and her love story was sold as a fairy tale. That same media machine helped elevate her from relative obscurity into global superstardom. Her role on Suits received more attention because of them. Her engagement became a worldwide event because of them. Her wedding was treated like a historic moment because of them. They gave her visibility most actresses can only dream of. But the moment the coverage stopped being 100% adoration, the moment even mild criticism crept in, the narrative flipped. Suddenly, the press was cruel, racist, persecutory, evil. What's striking is how Meghan reacts even when the media does exactly what she claims to want. When mistakes are acknowledged, when apologies are issued. Recently, a presenter publicly apologized on air for repeating unverified claims about Meghan's mother. It was a clear correction, a direct admission of fault, the kind of accountability Meghan and Harry constantly demand. And yet, instead of accepting it and moving on, her camp attacked again. They dismissed the apology as insincere, accused the network of ulterior motives, and turned a moment of resolution into yet another conflict. This is a pattern in its purest form. Nothing is ever enough. Even when someone tries to make things right, the hand still gets bitten, and now people are starting to wonder whether even Prince Harry himself is just another chapter in the same story. Old interviews are being replayed, and they hit differently now. The language he used in the early days was strange, almost clinical. He talked about teamwork, about roles, about doing the job well, about carrying out duties. It sounded less like a man madly in love and more like someone pitching a business partnership. Observers at the time brushed it off. Now they're rethinking everything. Look at what Harry has lost. His relationship with his brother is shattered. His bond with his father is strained, even as illness looms. He gave up his military identity, something that once defined him. He left his home, his friends, his support system, and relocated to a country where his entire world revolves around Meghan's connections. People who knew him before say he's changed, that the laughter is gone, that he looks tense, guarded, diminished. The question people are whispering is chilling. Did he understand the cost? Was he sold a dream of freedom and happiness that never truly existed? And if he ever wakes up and sees what he's lost, will it already be too late? Then there's the charitable empire that was supposed to prove everything. The foundation that was meant to be their legacy. The Archwell Foundation was supposed to show the world that Meghan and Harry were serious about service. Instead, it became another example of mismanagement, excess, and burned bridges. Financial filings revealed massive expenses that dwarfed the actual charitable output. Millions spent, far less given. Salaries ballooning, other costs exploding without clear explanations. And how much time did the founders themselves dedicate to this so-called life mission? Roughly an hour a week each. 1 hour. For a foundation bearing their name. Then came the layoffs. Staff let go just before the holidays. Lives disrupted. Loyalty repaid with pink slips. And almost immediately, the foundation was quietly shut down and rebranded under a new name, a new structure, a clean slate. Charity watchdogs raised eyebrows. Donors asked questions. Why wipe the slate clean unless there's something you don't want people looking at too closely? Again, the same story. People gave their money, their time, their belief, and they were left holding nothing while Meghan moved on to the next thing. At this point, even casual observers are starting to ask why this keeps happening. Why every relationship ends in fallout. Why every opportunity collapses. Why every helping hand eventually gets slapped away. And that's where psychology enters the conversation. Experts are careful with labels, but the behaviors are familiar. An inability to feel genuine gratitude. A belief that generosity is owed, not gifted. A constant victim narrative. A cycle of idealizing people, then devaluing them, then discarding them once they no longer serve a purpose. When kindness feels like an entitlement, gratitude becomes impossible. When things go wrong, blame must always be external. The family was the problem, the staff was the problem. The media was the problem, the donors were the problem, the critics were the problem, everyone but the one common denominator. Now the backlash has reached a level that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Social media has turned, comment sections are brutal. Former supporters openly admit they were fooled. The benefit of the doubt is gone. Projects are failing. Deals are underperforming. The Netflix ventures aren't delivering. The lifestyle brand has become a punchline. Promises are made, deadlines pass, nothing materializes. The glamorous Hollywood life she supposedly traded royalty for hasn't unfolded the way she imagined. Friends drift away, neighbors cool off, invitations dry up. The royal door appears permanently closed. Her father may never reconcile with her. Former staff have no incentive to protect her image. The public is exhausted by the victim narrative. And now the question hangs heavy in the air. What happens when you've alienated everyone who ever tried to help you? What happens when there are no bridges left to burn? What happens when the hand that fed you finally pulls away for good? We may be watching the answer unfold in real time. Desperation is creeping in. Selling access, monetizing proximity to royalty, rebranding failures as fresh starts. Meghan Markle was given fame, fortune, titles, platforms, and support that most people could never dream of. And she lost it all because nothing was ever enough, and no one was ever good enough. This backlash isn't cruelty, it's accountability. And it's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time